Fields then, I'm going to take a look at this and read a little bit for you. And I'm going to show you this gorgeous necklace that, as you can see, is still in its packing. And this is a necklace with heather taken from Culloden Fields and placed inside hillsides and are underlain by hard acidic rocks which give rise to the sweeping moorland so often associated with the Highlands. Plants like bell heather, dormontile and bracken flourish in the drier areas, while cross-leaved heath, sundews and bog asphodel grow in the wet heathland, bog and marsh. So let me show you, because we're talking about fantastic flora. So this is one of the items I bought while I was in Scotland by Heather Gems. I'm hoping you can pick this up. Sterling silver. Let me read the little bit of blurb. Heather gems, handcrafted from natural heather. So it shows you the process of how they make the jewellery, collecting the heather, cutting the heather, cleaning it, dyeing it, compressing it into a block, slicing the block, machining the shapes, sanding the jewellery and lacquering the pieces. Heather gems are handcrafted from the stems of Scottish heather, renowned for its purple bloom. The heather is collected from the Scottish hills. The stems are then dried, shot blasted to remove the bark and dyed various colours. Due to the nature of the process, no two heather gems are the same, making it a very individual personal gift and a beautiful reminder of our Scottish landscape. There's one in the shape of a little dog there. So let me show you again. I just love this colour. And they're like little hearts. And then I also got this. Again, it's by Heather Gems. Let me see if I can take this out. It's actually a brooch. Perhaps this is because it gives us a sense of connecting with a primeval past, for its rocks tell a story that reaches back more than 500 million years, long before dinosaurs roamed the earth. When shallow seas gave way to tall mountains, when huge volcanoes dominated the landscape, and when only primitive plants and algae populated mainly barren slopes and ephemeral says. These rocks are termed the down radian. With little soil or plant cover, they eroded rapidly in flash floods, depositing huge quantities of sediment in the valleys and floodplains within the emerging mountain chain. Violent volcanoes erupt. As the internal engine of the Earth continued to churn, movements in the Earth's crust caused deep faults to appear. We know from sedimentary rocks within the volcanic pile that an ancient river flowed northwestwards through the Glencoe area, following the line of weakness along a major fault. Wow. Inexorable ice erodes. Whilst we may marvel that the mountains of Glencoe stand testament to the volcanoes that exploded here 420 million years ago, in reality this active volcanic landscape bore very little resemblance to the glen we now know. The peaks and valleys of Glencoe owe far more to the glaciers and ice sheets that sculpted them over the last 2 million years. In the millions of years that followed the period of volcanic activity at Glencoe, the land that became Scotland gradually drifted northward through desert and subtropical climates until at the start of the Ice Age, 2.5 million years ago, it lay close to the present position